Hey guys, I'm LT.
And I'm Dan.
And welcome to BHK Outdoors, your beacon for all things outdoors. So grab a cup of coffee.
Or chugga.
And for the next 30 minutes, let's get out there. Hey, if you have any questions for Dan and I or any show ideas, you can always email us at radio@bhkoutdoors.com. That is radio@bhkoutdoors.com. Today's program is brought to you by Blind Horse Knives. Blind Horse Knives is an American-made, Ohio-owned company providing fantastic handmade knives for the world. So check them out at www.blindhorseknives.com. Guys, we got a pretty interesting show for you today. Dan and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about preparedness. Preparedness both at the home and your vehicle, or just in general in your life, how you kind of view things, how maybe you look at things. Preparedness, self-reliance, being able to rely on yourself and just close family members, all those things kind of do become very, very important in our daily lives.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that we're all going to wear tinfoil hats and create a compound or anything. It just means that we're going to make sure that we are ready for things that may come up or whatever, that we're at least a little bit more prepared.
Dan, I think my view on preparedness, just from an in general standpoint, I'm again, like you said, no tinfoil hats. I'm not thinking alien attack or we're being attacked by a foreign country. More of a natural disaster or a financial collapse within the United States. Those are the kind of things that I would probably, in my mindset, be a little more apt to be say prepared for.
Yeah, these kinds of things can happen. We've seen it in the past. I know that when we were up in Vermont and that hurricane hit, there was a lot of people that couldn't even get home from work, and I don't know that they went to work that day thinking that, hey, you know what, I'm going to be able to get home tonight.
Right.
And they actually couldn't get home for 3 days. So, I mean, that's kind of weird to think about that.
Absolutely, and that's some of the things that we don't think about. We were in a situation in Virginia when I lived down there that an ice storm came through and really disrupted stuff for quite a while, broken trees and power lines down. Something as simple as being without power for 3 or 4 days, how that definitely would affect your lifestyle in the wintertime. In the summertime, I mean, it would still be a concern, but geez, in the wintertime without power, a lot of us may go without heat. There's a lot of things that you can think about. Look at the tsunami that hit overseas. I mean, those people were messed up, or even the nuclear problems in Japan. Look what kind of situations there. Just look at things like that. A major snowstorm that comes through here. Like you said, a hurricane, a tornado that just hit Missouri not too long ago, killing a bunch of people. I mean, that's going to disrupt people's lifestyle for a long period of time. So what are some of the things that maybe we can do that will help us if this situation ever comes around?
Well, I don't know. You just have to kind of give it some thought and think about what you might need personally for your family. And, like a lot of us males, it's our responsibility to protect our families. So one of the things I know that I'm doing is I'm taking my 12 and a half acres and I'm trying to think about how I can make this 12 and a half acres work for me. And so I've done some planning this year. We've planted some fruit trees on the property. I also have blueberry bushes. I have raspberry bushes, blackberry bushes, things like this. And plus I'm putting in a fairly large garden this year. So, I mean, just things like that.
Yeah, and you have the acreage that you can have the ability to put in a bunch of different crops. Actually, you could probably cover, like you said, the fruit trees, some bushes, some corn and different plants. Boy, you could really get enough to feed your family and half the neighborhood for sure in a situation like that.
Yeah, and I put in some clover too to feed my meat.
Absolutely. You know what? That's something that sometimes people do overlook. There is nothing wrong with harvesting the wild game, and if you have the opportunity, just like you said, you fatten them up off of your own fields, and hey, there you go. Come time to harvest them in the fall, they're going to be right there.
Right, yeah, I want to keep them close by, so I've planted some things that are beneficial to the wild creatures out there. Even thinking about the birds, what am I going to do to attract birds and things like that too.
And that's a fantastic plan. You want to have a nice ecosystem right on your property. Even for my wife and I, we live in the city. We don't have any acreage whatsoever, but Elaine is very good about using available spots. She'll have stuff on the windowsills in the kitchen. She had stuff in our sunroom last winter. She was growing, I think, lettuce through the winter in the sunroom. She has stuff on the steps out back, on the back porch, and in a small garden down in the back, and things just planted all around the house. So she uses whatever's available to put in whatever the kind of things that she likes to have. She does kind of like a square foot gardening situation, which she does real well with. So one of the things you don't have to, well, I don't have any property to garden. I have seen people garden in 5-gallon buckets. There was a restaurant we used to go to that in their parking lot, they had 5-gallon buckets that they were growing their tomatoes in the parking lot in the middle of the city just for their restaurant. And I just thought, wow, if you can do something like that, you can do this at home.
Yeah, I think it's stuff that people ought to at least give some thought to. Because I know right there in Cambridge, Ohio, I've seen snowstorms hit, and I've seen the grocery stores empty out just over something that was only going to last for probably a day or 2 days. And that told me that people do not have enough food set aside or water to go 2 or 3 days. I mean,
Right.
I was like, I couldn't believe the people weren't at least ready to go a couple of days without stuff.
I know they just go and clean the supermarkets out of toilet paper and milk and bread. It's
Yeah.
crazy. Those are just kind of things. I know they're staples and everything for us, but we should have them on hand. With the internet and with the amount of books, today I think doing a self-sufficient type garden or self-reliant garden of any type is it's so much easier with the information that you can just sit down in front of your computer and Google what you want to know about and the time to plant it, when to harvest it, what to expect from it. You could become relatively knowledgeable in gardening in a short period of time just by doing a little bit of research, which basically off the internet is free. It's just your time.
Yeah, I mean, you gave me a couple of books that were very beneficial to me getting started for Christmas, and there is a lot of information out there. You just have to search it out. And I do think it's something that people ought to give quite a bit of thought to, because, there's nothing guaranteed in this world. And the more uncertain this world becomes, the more that you should be thinking about, how am I going to survive anything that comes our way.
You're absolutely right. And there's a different kind of satisfaction you get out of growing and harvesting your own food. I mean, it's just one of those things that is so interesting. I remember reading a story one time about this lady who had put in her corn field and everything, and when the corn came to harvest time, she wanted it so fresh that she started the boiling water on the stove, ran out, picked a corn, and was husking it on her run back to the stove to get it in there so she could have the freshest possible corn she had. And reading that story, every time I pick something out of the garden, I always think back to that. It's like, that's the kind of feeling that you're really helping provide for yourself and your family by simply doing something that is not difficult to do. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to grow a garden. I mean, you really don't.
No, but you do need some knowledge of how to keep that product that you're growing and keep it long term.
Sure.
Or short term, or however you want to do it. You've got to have a way to prepare it so that it'll be there when you really need it.
Yeah, absolutely. Canning, and there's just a lot of different ways. Freezing and canning come to mind for that. You know what? One of the things that Elaine and I do, and we talk about it sometimes being date night, is we stock a pantry. We build a pantry behind one of the doors in our hallway, a little alcove that we had there, and I think I have about 6 shelves there, and we stock them with different things. When we stock our pantry, we look at it from the fact we have our food that needs to be tended to right away, something that doesn't keep long. We have stuff in our pantry clear up to 25 years and everywhere in between. We have what's something called a grab and go bucket that gives a 25-year shelf life that we have there just in case we need it. And the nice thing about the grab and go bucket is simply that. If there's a situation and we have to leave the house, I know if I grab that one bucket, I've got enough food to keep her and I fed 3 meals a day for up to 30 days. And that's pretty good on your mind. That's a very relaxing point. Now, it may be a little bland in the long term, but you know what? I still have the nutritional value. We have MREs that we have. Those are meals ready to eat that we can get. Actually, we buy those at gun shows, surplus stuff So we have some of those. We have some of the backpacking meals that are just boil and bag, so that all we have to do is heat water and we have a nutritious meal. I keep raviolis in there. Why? Because I like raviolis, and they keep for a long time. Now, another thing that we do when we bring our cans home from the grocery store is I put a date on them, and I rotate the pantry. So I'll take the new cans, put them in the back, and start putting everything to the front and watch the dates on them and make sure that we do eat the stuff. That's a nice thing about a pantry stocking scenario is you're using it. It's not like you're going to put it there and nothing ever comes of it. You're using it as you go along, so you're restocking it with fresh stuff. We have milk that's shelf stable that we have there. We have canned eggs. We have potatoes. We have all different types of stuff, and we have it anywhere from we need to eat it this week to 5 to 10 years to 25 years in a bucket. So we have all of those things in our pantry. And to be quite honest, it's fun to sit there and look and come up with how are we going to stock our pantry? What are we going to put in it? Things that both of us like to eat and the ability to use it whenever we want to.
Yeah, I know. I was watching some of these prepper shows that are on TV and seeing what other people around the country are doing. One of the things that was pointed out to me that, and why I went with the garden was that, you do have to replace it. You can have a store of food, but at some point, if it goes longer than what you have stored, you need to supplement that with something, either get you through the winter, or you've got to have some kind of plant that's replenishing your food stores.
Hey guys, it's LT.
And I'm Dan.
And we're with Blind Horse Knives. Hey Dan, what's your favorite knife?
My favorite knife's a Woodsman Pro.
A Woodsman Pro.
Yes.
Well, why do you like that one?
Because it's big enough to do wood chores and dressing game and things like that.
Wow. So Woodsman Pro. Guys, the best place to check them out is blindhorseknives.com. That's the Woodsman Pro. Check it out on the Knives for Sale page at blindhorseknives.com. Hey guys, we're back, and thanks for hanging with us today. We're talking about preparedness and self-reliance. Dan, you were talking about a little bit about, can you talk about those preparedness shows that we'd touched on?
Well, yeah, I've been watching some of these shows, and it's pretty interesting to see what the people out there in the country are doing. And, they were telling me that one of the things that they like to do, even if they have food stores, is to make sure that they're growing something so that they can replace the food stores and make it last longer. Right. So you want to think of what can I do to maybe grow something that's going to last a little bit longer and get me through these situations. So that was one of the reasons why I started in with the garden thing and thinking about my property and what could I plant on there that would get me long-term stuff or on a yearly basis. That's why I did the apple trees and the berry bushes and things like that will produce stuff for me on a rotation basis.
Absolutely. And with having your corn and stuff like that's kind of this year's harvest as your fruit trees and your berry bushes get where they are going to be sustaining you as well. So that's a real good plan. I like the way you thought it out.
Well, yeah, I'm also thinking about, what vegetables and things grow like all through the season and which ones are just harvested in the fall, and try to make sure that I have something growing all of the time. And I even put in some sunflower seeds and things like that, so I'll have sunflower plants.
Oh, absolutely. Sunflowers are a good sort, for the birds and also just for you to dry and keep for yourself. Another thing with what's going along with kind of what you're talking about too is companion planting. What vegetables can you put with other vegetables that cut down on your work in the garden? One of the things that we found over the years is when we grow our corn, instead of having our string beans somewhere that I have to pull them, we let the string beans grow right up the corn stalks.
There's nothing the matter with that.
No, then I have two crops basically in a very short area of itself, and let the one crop help the other crop, again, cutting down on the work that I have to do in the garden. Because let's face it, we already work all day. We don't want to have to spend half the night working on our garden. So that takes some of the enjoyment out of it. One of the things that always was pleasurable about garden is the relaxation, to being outside. Hands in the dirt do something to you that nothing else can do. I mean, it just gives you a whole different feeling and outlook on stuff.
Yeah, it's the only way I know. I'll get your hands dirty.
Well, you could do it that way too. That was real good. Okay, hey, well, I want to talk to you guys a little bit about vehicle preparedness. We've talked about gardening. We've talked about self-sufficiency and having some pantry stocking. Don't forget your vehicle. One of the things, and I'm sure most of you have seen it on the news, you've seen people stranded, whether it be in floods, whether it be in hurricanes, tornadoes, or snowstorms, ice storms in the wintertime. Okay, here you have all this stuff at home, and you're stuck in your car 20 miles from home. What can you do? What can you have in your car? What should you have there? I'll just give you a real quick overview on what I have in my Jeep. Just real simple. When I get into my Jeep, I have a backpack that has water, at least a couple candy bars, and a few things in it. There's a blanket in there. I have oil. I have radiator or antifreeze. I have a tire repair kit. So I have some stuff that if I get stuck overnight or even up to a day maybe, that just within my Jeep, I should be okay.
Well, that's good because a lot of people probably don't think that far ahead. And I'm sure that's going to get you out of a situation if you needed to get yourself out of it. I mean, that's a good idea.
Absolutely. You know, one of the things that people really have to remember is you should have water available to you at almost all times. I rarely, if ever, leave the home, even if I'm just going across town, without a water bottle of sorts. Even if I don't take my backpack that has all my stuff in it, I almost always go out of the house with a water bottle.
Yeah, water is kind of a hard thing to obtain if you don't have something with you. I mean, you think about what you would have to go through to get a reliable drink of water and something that's clean and healthy.
Yep. So vehicle preparedness is definitely something you may want to consider if you haven't considered keeping water in your vehicle. I mean, we have trunks, we have hatches. There's places that we can put some stuff. There's nothing wrong with having an old wool blanket or a rolled up sleeping bag, even in the summertime. Because you know what? I mean, you fall in a lake and get hyperthermic. There's all kinds of things that could go wrong. And if you have just a few things on hand that will help you get out of a bad situation, it's always a good idea to have even a small shovel. You know what? I pulled off the road to do something, and now I'm hung up, and I got to dig my way out. Just little things like that make a big difference in the long-term preparedness. I think it just gives you a whole different mindset.
I think, sitting here listening to you talk about things like that, a lot of guys don't think like that. I mean, there's a few of us that do, but I don't know how many guys out there think that, hey, I'm going to be okay regardless of what goes on because I'm a man. I can suck it up. I can do this. I can always find something. A couple weeks ago when I was in Philadelphia, I had a couple of women come up to the table. And these women were probably in their late 40s, early 50s, and they were just getting into being a little more self-reliant. And both of them were telling me that their husbands aren't on board with what they're doing, but they're going to do it anyways because they know that they need to be prepared. So they were going out and getting these things, and I think they purchased a couple of water purifiers from me, and some other items to start fires and things like that. But it was strange to me that these women would come up and talk to me and their husbands weren't on board with it.
You know, I think that a lot of times is the case. One of the two people in the relationship may be on board and the other one's not really much on board. Luckily, in my situation, Elaine is very much on board. She is got her own bug-out bag, and I have a bug-out bag, and she's into the gardening and pantrying. So it works well for us. But I think you're right. A lot of people don't. You get one person that kind of is, and maybe the other person isn't. So that person that is, instead of beating them over the head with it, just, go ahead and prepare, and then they're going to see. There's a lot of enjoyment in doing it. I mean, I know when you and I start packing our backpacks for a trip, half of the fun on going on the trip is the week before, trying to weigh all your stuff and see if you can get down to 20 pounds or whatever the challenge is, just to have fun playing with your gear and messing around with that stuff.
Oh, yeah, I spend more time getting ready for it than I do the actual trip.
But, I mean, that's the fun of it. So, I mean, that's really the way you get them into those things by these little fun examples of stuff. Now that we kind of on backpacks, let's talk about the bug out bags. Bug out bags or bobs or just your ready bag or your go bag or whatever you want to call it. Simple layman's terms, I just have a backpack set up that has at least one canteen. I have a way of starting a fire. I have a portable shelter, which simply it could be a space blanket. I have water purification tablets or a filter of sorts, and some basic essentials like a knife. And depends if I need to be able to have my handgun or rifle with me, it will have that particular ammunition on hand and readily available, and just some other things that are necessary if I had to leave the house in a hurry and jump in the Jeep and go somewhere.
Oh yeah, I don't know that a lot of people think, that far ahead, but it's something that they really should do is keep a pack ready to go. I know you were talking to me about it, and I am not necessarily 100% ready to go, even though I want to be, but I at least still have a pack, from my last trip that is ready to go, and I guess that's why I haven't taken the stuff out of there. So I guess I'm prepared too. But
yeah, that's good. That, you know what, having a pack packed for whatever reason, I probably still have something from hunting season. One of my packs downstairs probably still has my drag rope and everything else in it.
Oh yeah, you never know. I mean, I know that I'm going to grab that backpack if I have to leave.
Right. And you know what? The backpack or the bug out bag is different for everyone, depending on our size, depending on our gender, our likes, our dislikes. It doesn't have to be what Dan and I would carry. You kind of want to set it up for yourself. But if you just remember some of the very basics, if you have a way to purify water, okay, because you have to drink, if you have a way to create a makeshift quickie shelter to keep your body dry and warm, if you have a fire starting method, and if you have a little bit of food in there, if you have that's it. You don't even have to have a lot of stuff. I would add a knife to that because I'm always an advocate for a cutting tool because you can do so much with a knife when need be. So if you just have those things and then build upon it, whatever makes you comfortable at that point, because I'm sure yours would be different than mine, Dan.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you've got to think about medications too, things of that nature. If you have things that you need to be medicated for, you want to make sure that you have that ready to go as well.
Yeah, and that's another thing that a lot of times, you don't think about is exactly just what you said, the medication. So, hey guys, I'll tell you what, we're going to take a short break, and we will be back with you in about 30 seconds to talk about self-reliance and preparedness. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, this is Dan from Blind Horse Knives.
And he's here today to tell you about the knife company that we own and how cool it is to be an American-made Ohio knife company. Isn't that what you wanted to say, Dan?
It's something like that.
Okay, so just to save him the trouble, guys, would you just go to blindhorseknives.com and check us out? That's blindhorseknives.com, where you can get an American-made, not only an American-made, but an Ohio-made knife. blindhorseknives.com. Thanks for stopping by.
I hate those words.
Hey guys, we're back, and thanks for being with us. Today, Dan and I are talking about self-reliance, preparedness at the home and your vehicles. And Dan, one of the things that I feel is extremely important is water. I mean, you have to have purified, filtered, safe water to drink.
Absolutely. That's the number one thing, I think, on everybody's list.
And even at home. I live in the city, and I have city water, but my wife and I still have a product called a Big Berkey. You can check them out at www.berkey.com, I believe, or water filters. It is a stainless steel container where we can pour water in the top. It's almost so easy to use that you can't not use it. It filters down through into a bottom chamber, which then has a spigot on it, and you pour it right into your glass to drink or make coffee with. The reason that I think this is important, even in our homes today, if you're on a well, sometimes you can get ground runoff into your wells, and you may not even know it. You probably need some type of filter system on there. City water, you know what? It's probably 100% safe, but I have been in situations right here in our hometown where just across the river, the other city was out of, they were on a boiler alert for, I think, almost a week because of some broken water lines. Well, with our Berkey filter system, I don't have to worry about that. What if I didn't get the notification in time and I was drinking bad water? One of the things you don't want to deal with is sickness from water at all. I mean, you definitely don't want to have that to be an issue. So I suggest having a home water filtration purifying system of some sort. I am a big fan of the Berkey products. They have them in all different sizes. I've been using this one for at least a year and a half, I think, and my wife and I are absolutely sold on this particular product.
Yeah, I don't have one of those yet. I'm going to add that to my list. We have a pop-on one that goes right on our faucet.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I deal with the well water situation.
Yeah, and just not only looking at things from the home standpoint, but again, like we were talking about being in your bug-out bag, now you're in your vehicle and you're not at your home, you don't have your Berkey water system. There are many, many different water filtrations, straws, purification tablets that you can easily put into your backpack or even into your pocket in your pants. You can carry a bottle of the iodine tablets in your pants. I personally carry a Frontier Pro water filter. I think it's absolutely wonderful. We do have some other types that we've tested from here and there, and they work just as good as well. But you have some of the portable water filters, I think, as well.
Oh, yeah, I have exactly the one that you just described, but I also have the, what's the name of that one? Life Straw or
oh yeah,
what is that one?
Yeah, I think
you're
right.
Straw?
I think it is Life Straw. So water purifying, other than boiling, which we're a big advocate. I mean, they're bottom line, guys. No better way than boiling. But if you can't boil, what are some of the other options for home use? I love the Berkey, and for on the run, I'm a Frontier Pro guy. And
well, that Life Straw, I think it's a great
product.
They're claiming that that'll do 1,000 liters of water for a year.
See, I haven't tried that one out yet, and I definitely need to. One of the last things we got time to talk to you about today is having some money on hand versus credit cards. How do you feel about that, Dan?
Do you really want to know how I feel about that? Well, I'm going to tell you. I think that paper money isn't going to have the value. I know that you disagree with me on this, but I can't imagine myself trading my fresh apples for paper money in a situation where I don't think that paper money is going to be worth much. So you're not getting my apples for $100 bill.
Well, and I see your point, but the only thing I'm looking at is if it's a short term versus a long term. I agree with you. I think paper money is going to be worthless. But in the short term, let's just say we have a couple weeks financial breakdown where I can't get my ATM to get money out. Having money on hand as opposed to just relying on your credit card in your pocket.
Well, I'm not going to rely on either of those because I wouldn't know. I can't see into the future. I don't know if it's going to be a short-term breakdown or long-term. So to me, I'm going to rely, if I had to rely on a monetary value system, I would go with silver.
Yeah, and I feel the same way. I think silver.
I mean, I would have silver on hand, and I know a lot of people are doing this. They're buying silver coins as a way to have another monetary system in place.
Absolutely.
So they'll trade their currency in for silver coins just for the silver value or the weight. And they're using that because they have little pieces of silver that they can trade for things. So definitely I think that's something that I would look into.
Yeah. And again, you're looking at the opportunity to do some bartering and different things. Guys, well, we're pretty much out of time today. We thank you for the time that you spent with us. Enjoy talking about preparedness and self-reliance. We'd like to do some more shows in the future on that. So thanks for being with us today. For the very latest, be sure to like our BHK Outdoors Facebook page, or you can follow us on Twitter. If you have any questions or show ideas for Dan and myself, please email us at radio@bhkoutdoors.com. Thank you all for being with us today. Remember to join us right here next Saturday morning for BHK Outdoors, your beacon for all things outdoors. So thanks to our producer, Mike Henniger. And until then, I am LT.
And I'm Dan.
And may God bless all of you.
Prepare.